Tactical Guy 1 here from the YouTube world, sick as a dog, so please don't mind my voice. I want to share with you guys a psychological ploy that was attempted on me not too long ago, and it was done by a very smart officer. Unfortunately for the officer, I've been at this far too long to fall for such simple tricks. A friend of mine were out and about. He's driving, I'm the passenger. My friend gets stopped by an officer, and the officer goes up to the window and says, "License, registration, and proof of insurance, please." As my friend is gathering the information, the officer asks my friend, "Does he have a driver's license?" My friend looks at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, "Huh, okay." So I tell the officer out loud, "I don't have a driver's license." The officer ignores me and then asks my friend, "Does he have an ID?" My friend looks at me like he's, in the middle here, and then I realize and I catch what's going on. I say, okay, fine. He wants to play this game, we're going to play this game. So I simply shake my head yes to my friend, since the officer cannot see what I'm doing. And then my friend says yes to the officer. The officer says, "Can I see it?" And that's when I say, "Do you need my ID, officer?" The officer crouches down and looks into the car and says, "Yes." "Okay, here you go. Give him my ID." That wasn't so hard. I got him to engage me, though. So the officer walks back to his car and runs our stuff, comes back, gives my friend a ticket, gives me my ID back, and we're on our way. My friend's like, "Why the heck was he asking me for your stuff?" I said the reason an officer would ask a driver for passenger's identification or driver's license is because that way, if the passengers want to complain later on that the officer asked them for their identification or driver's license, it would totally be untrue, because the officer never asked them anything. He asked the driver, and the driver in return asked the passengers. So basically an officer would get the driver to do his job or her job for them. And now there's no real liability there, because an officer can say, "Hey, I never asked him for anything." I said, however, since I asked the officer if he needed my ID, and the officer crouched down and he responded to me and he engaged me, said that's a different story. So I've already written a letter to the chief of police, and I'm waiting a response by this week. And if by this week I get no response from the chief of police, I will be writing a letter to the attorney general. Now, I can't say too much because it's still a pending case, I guess, if you will. Not against me, at least against the officer, or it will be one pretty soon here, shortly. But the main point is this: always be polite, because technically you should always be recording, so keep that in mind. Another thing, if I'm driving and an officer asks me for passengers' IDs or driver's licenses, I'm simply going to say, "Officer, with all due respect, I don't feel comfortable doing that. If that's part of your job, by all means go ahead and do it. They're right there." Because once again, we got to be polite, we're recording, and we're making a record. And at the same time, you're going to force that cop to be liable if he wants to be liable, or if she wants to be liable. If you want to be liable, go ahead. Let them do whatever they want to do, they think they can do. But as long as they do it. If I'm a passenger, I'm going to try to make sure that the officer engages me. If he keeps or she keeps ignoring me, then I'm simply going to do nothing and say nothing until the officer gets irritated and then looks at me and says, "Hey, give me your stuff," or whatever the case may be. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. Thanks for watching, guys, and Godspeed.